let's get going. When you were at primary school, you probably learned, for those that can remember, that the normal colour wheel is made up of red, yellow, it doesn't really matter which at the moment, red, yellow and blue. And those are called primary colours. And if you mix your blue and yellow together, you will get green. If you mix your red and yellow, you will get orange. And what's the missing one? What haven't we done? And if you mix the red and the blue, you will get a purple. So that is the basic, simple colour wheel. And it is quite useful to remember it. And those are called primary colours, and those mixed colours that I've just mentioned, green, orange, and what's the other colour? Purple. They are your secondary colours. But when it comes to adding colour to our work, regardless of what medium we're using, whether it's watercolour or acrylics or oils or collage or watercolour pencils or drawing pens, pastels, all of those sorts of things, it's useful to know a little bit more about the colours and about colour theory. And something that I learned quite a while ago now, at the beginning of me being taking my art much more seriously, I learned about something called a split primary colour wheel. Now, I'm sure that many of you have heard of the fact that we can have warm and cool colours. Now, I'm going to not harp too much on deciding whether colours are warm or cool, just so that you know that I have got two versions of each. So I've got two versions of yellow, two versions of red, and two versions of blue. And what I've actually got is a warm or cool split of the primary colours. Now, it's very difficult. So when we grow up, we hear that red are warm colours. They make us feel warm, and it goes with fire and hot things. And, oh, there's my dog barking. I hope she doesn't go too mad. And blue is cold. So it's a bit nonsensical when you first hear about it that you can have warm blue or cool red. So I will explain that, and it doesn't matter if you actually remember it or not. Okay, I will tell you that warm colours mean that there is red in them. And you're going to say, well, both of those have got red. Yes. Cool colours mean that they've got a bit of blue in them. And you're going to say, well, both of those have got blue in them. I'm just trying to find my my video again. It kind of dropped out on me. So you might say, well, blue is cool. How can it have a bit of red in it? So that blue, which I like to call a purpley blue, and if you look in the notes, I've actually called it a purpley blue. Just trying to get back to where I can see what my video is doing, because that's the only way that I can keep track of what you're seeing. So back to our colours. So this colour, which is the purpley red, means it's got a bit of blue in it, so that's your cool red. The red that doesn't have blue in it, that's the warm red. Doesn't matter if you don't remember. The purpley blue, we know that you need red and blue to make purple, so that means it's got a bit of red in it, therefore it is our warm blue. That blue does not have any red in it, so we call that our cool blue. And when it comes to our yellows, that yellow is kind of on the orangey side. So that means it's got a little bit of red in it, because red and yellow make orange, and therefore that's your warm yellow. And that yellow is a cool yellow because it doesn't have any red in it. So it's actually kind of a greeny, lemony yellow. So in simple terms, that's how we split these colors into warm and cool, but I like to think of them as purpley or not purpley, purpley or orangey, and orangey or greeny. Now, with the blues, I said not purpley because that doesn't particularly look like green, so it's easier for me to remember that it's not the purple one. Therefore, we're going to make our greens with that. Now, these are not definite rules. You can make fantastic greens by mixing with this blue that's got a bit of red in it. But for our purposes, for me to demonstrate how colors work, I'm going to keep to mixing the purpley red with the purpley blue to make purple. And one of the things I said in the email, in fact, I've put as the title of this video, is how not to make mud. So if you use a purpley blue and a purpley red to make your purple, that is if you haven't got a nice purple pencil, then you will make a nice rich purple. Now, very, very often I know people have mixed that red and that blue to get their purple, and all they get is a muddy grey. And that's because that red has got a bit of yellow in it because it's a little bit orangey, and that blue has got a bit of yellow in it because it's a little bit green. So when you mix the red and the blue, it comes out a little bit grey. So I think that's enough about my talking. I'm actually going to start demonstrating. And I am going to follow the pattern that's on this, this sheet that you've been sent. Now, on this sheet, I've used watercolor pencils, which these are, and I've actually wet the colors. I am not going to be wetting those colors today, and we'll just see how it goes. Let's see if I can get back to my my messages, and I can see that Rita's online, and Savannah, welcome. That's the first time I've seen you here. And Leah from Papua New Guinea, that's fantastic. And Nine, nice to see you too. And Jasminka, of course. Hello, hello. Lovely to see you all on board. Okay, so I'm going to start with my reds at the top there, and I'm going to color in. I'm just looking to see that you can see what I can see. Okay, so you can see that's kind of a pinky red. I have given them names over the page. It's actually called alizarin. It really doesn't matter if you remember the names or not, but you can see that when I put this red down, that's kind of a postbox red, and that's kind of a pinky tomatoey red. It's quite difficult to tell the difference. So play, play, play. See if you make mud, see if you don't make mud. See how you can get used to it. And the paint on the pencil is helping me a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to put those two there, and then coming down this side of our color wheel, I'm going to put the purpley blue. Now I'm going to put the purpley blue there because I'm going to mix those two colors to make purple, which is our secondary color, which will go in between. So it's quite important that I don't put this blue on that side because I want to keep these two together. And now the other blue. So you can see that this is definitely not purpley. It's actually quite a lovely little blue there. And now we're going to blue and yellow make green, so I'm going to leave space for my secondary there. So I'm going to use my greeny yellow next. Now sometimes they don't look that different on the paper, but you'll see the difference once I start laying the colors over and when I start showing you muddy colors and things like that. So the real theory comes in on how to combine colors. So even though this is a pure form of color wheel, we don't have to use these colors all the time, but understanding how they work is really, really useful. Okay, so you can see that that yellow is a little bit more orange than that yellow. So that's quite good from what you can see, what I can see on the video there. Are you ready to go down, dog? Okay, so mixing colors. To mix a lovely purpley blue, not purpley blue, purple, I'm going to put a little bit of red down. Now it doesn't actually matter. Hello, Navamal. Thank you for watching. Nice to see you. That's the first time on board. Okay, so that's my purpley red, and I'm going to mix it with my purpley blue. And it should give us a reasonable purple there. It doesn't matter which one you lay down first. It does actually matter to what it looks like, but you need to experiment. So if I wanted to add a little bit more red there, I could. So I could have started off with blue, but there's no rule as to which one goes first. Okay, so that's quite a nice purple there. If I wet that a little bit, you would see it would be much brighter. Okay, we're going to come to our green now, and let's see, so I'm picking up my greenish yellow first. My dog's leaning her head over my arm, over the other arm, which is now being held captive. And I'm putting the greeny blue, or the not purpley blue, over the top. Can you see that I've changed direction? That just helps to fill in the paper a little bit more. And you can see that's quite a nice green there. Looking up at my screen. And the last secondary color is orange, so I'm going to use my orange yellow, the yellow that's more on the side of orange. In fact, some people probably would call that orange in the first place. And I'm going to mix it with my orangey red, not my purpley red. And that will give me a nice orange. Now, of course, things change depending on how hard you press the pencils. There's lots of different variables, so you will have to find one that suits you. So I felt like adding another layer of yellow on top there. Red is a very powerful color, especially when mixed with a light color. So I think that is a nicer orange now that I've put a little bit of yellow on it. Okay, so that is our basic color wheel. So these are primary colors. 1, 2, actually, that's also a 1 for a primary color, and that's a 1 for the primary color, but I've got 2 versions of each primary color. And the color that you mix by mixing 2 primary colors is called a secondary color. And yes, there are also such things as a tertiary color, which is when you mix a secondary color with a primary color. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Okay, so there you have our primary colors. Now, it's pretty simple at this stage of the game. So how does it matter when we are trying to change things up and find different ways of making colors? Yes, you can get an orange pencil and you can get a purple pencil and you can get many, many green pencils, but your work will be much more attractive if you are also mixing other colors in. So don't try always to find just the one color that you want to use. It makes it look more attractive if you can mix your colors and add a bit of interest instead of just finding the right color. Okay, here comes a bit of color theory. And what that means is understanding what happens when you mix these colors. So I've already told you about warm and cool colors and split primaries, so that in itself is color theory. But I want to point you in the direction of what happens when we don't use these very typical colors. And particularly if you live in Australia, it does sort of happen in South Africa as well. The colors of the grass, the greens, they're not this bright green that you find, this English green. They are a little bit more grey. Now, I mentioned South Africa as well because you have a lot of eucalypts growing there, a lot of gum trees growing there, and you've got, of course, the proteas. And in Australia, we have a very, very similar plant. They are cousins somehow, and they are the Banksias. And the color of those leaves is not a very bright, garish green. And I'm going to show you something which is my set of 120 colors. And so if I pick out, what they want me to, when I use a green, pick a bright green like that, or that kind of appley bright green that you get in colored sets, they're not madly useful for natural looking colors. And there's purple, although sometimes you do resort to them like the purple because it's quite a difficult color to make. However, you'll understand why in a second. So, as I said, the Banksias and the proteas and the eucalypts, they are not really that color. They're a bit of a dirty green, and it's a very nice dirty green and a nice dirty color. And that's what I'm going to show you in the next step, which is taking your color theory a little bit further. The colors opposite each other, so yellow opposite purple, are called complementary colors. Now I know we've got two different yellows there, but just take it for the simple version at the moment. So we've got red opposite green, and we've got orange opposite blue. And those are called complementary colors. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, of course, that they complement each other. So when you put orange next to that blue, let's put an orangey color next to that blue, it will really sing, it will really pop. And you actually find these colors quite often together in nature. Okay? Or if you are doing a drawing and you've got lots of red in it, lots of blue in it, in the blue sky, the yellowy orange will pop against that. You've all seen the mixture of red and green. Of course, they are Christmas colors, and you've seen how bright they look against each other. So complementaries next to each other sing. They energize each other and they look fantastic. But there's something else that they also do, and this is the part that I really love. They also back each other off. They grey each other off. So if all I had was this green and I wanted to not make it as garish as that, so that looks very, very bright. Hello, Greg Ross. Somebody else on board to watch. That's fantastic. Welcome. It's just water in my container. Okay, so if you've got this green, it's not a very natural green, and certainly, as I was saying, it's definitely not an Australian or a South African green. If you add a little bit, and I really mean a little bit, of the complementary color, you will knock that back a little bit and dirty it up so it looks better. Now, it doesn't really matter which red I choose, as long as it's just a little bit. So I'm gently, gently, gently putting that over there. And hopefully that's coming up for you, and you can see it's dirtying that green up. So if I go back to this green over here, I'm just going to make that patch a little bit bigger. So this is the green that we've made with yellow and blue. Yes, we didn't add a green there, although we could. I'm now going to add my other red, a little bit of that red in there. And it's still a green, but it's now a dirtier green. It's backed off being so bright, even though it wasn't as bright as that. So that's the bit that I want you to take away, is the colors opposite on the color wheel are called complementary. See what my spelling is like. Complementary. And yes, they complement each other. Hello, Bev Scott. Welcome to the video. And we've got Nokatula. Hello, hello. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That name Nokatula is very familiar to me and gives me a warm glow. I used to work as a volunteer in a school for disabled children in, can't remember the name of the township, Alexandria, and there was a school called Nokatula there, so welcome. That's a lovely memory for me. Okay, back to the color wheel. So if you add a touch of the complementary, you will knock it back a little bit, and if you're actually adding it like that, this will become so much more interesting to look at. Okay, so all I'm doing is adding a bit more yellow and a bit more blue. This is not an exact science, although if you go to the hardware store and ask them to mix their colors, they know exactly how many drops of that and how many drops of that to make their different colors. Okay, orange and blue. Have you ever seen a strelitzia, a bird of paradise flower? Isn't that the most incredible purple and yellow or orange and blue mix? It's, or not mix, but complementaries, how they sing against each other. I love those flowers, and I love seeing these colors in nature. When it comes to purple and yellow, it's one of my favorite grays, and I know I've just thrown another spanner in the works of color theory there. We're dirtying the colors up a little bit, but if you actually are using paint and you want to make a really beautiful gray, instead of getting black and white paint, mix your grays by mixing your complementary colors. You will have to see how much of this and how much of that, but basically they will give you the grays that you're looking for. Okay, back to yellow and purple. I love yellow and purple for my stormy, stormy skies. So I did take a purple out of the box. Purple is quite difficult to mix, but you can see if I put that purple there, it's not that much difference. In fact, on the screen this is coming out as a bit blue, more blue than it is actually here. But I know that if I put yellow over that, it greys it off. I used to be teased about my accent, which you can hear after 35 years is still quite South African. And can you see how grey that is? It's almost grey like the graphite pencil that you've got there. But it's much, much more interesting than just the graphite pencil there. How beautiful is that? I really love it. And if I put a bit of yellow on the other purple that we made, it's doing the same thing there. Okay, I am at the moment adding light color to dark. So you can see that yellow is much lighter than purple. So if you add the purple to the yellow, you have to be very, very light with it. So I'm going to show you two different ones. I'm going to show you a bit of yellow over, a bit of purple over there, just to dirty that yellow up. But I will actually do it with my, the two colors that I used to make that purple. So there's kind of a greenie. And there's our purple on top of the yellow. And I think I'm going to need to add some more yellow over the top. So you can see it's a dirty kind of color. But it's gorgeous. I love seeing these colors. When you look at them, when you examine them, you can actually see all the different colors mingling. And it's one of the lovely things about working with dry pencil as opposed to a wet medium, is that your eye is doing all the mixing and the colors are remaining quite separate. So I love that. But you can see how that's a dirtied off purple. And the last color we've got is our blue and orange. And we made the orange with those two colors. Now I'm just looking at that red that I chose, and some people might call that an orange as well, so it's pretty close to an orange, but the two of them have mixed to make that one on there. So if I take a blue, again it doesn't matter which blue, so let's take this one for example, and I put that over the edge there. It's going a little bit green because of the yellow. So I might add a little bit more of the red orange to make it a bit dirtier. Okay, so if you had drawn an orange, like so many people have, and they've sent through their oranges in from our Tuesday afternoon challenge, let's say you've got an orange there. I'm just trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. Justin Martin is watching. Hello, Justine. We've got lots of first-timers on the video this afternoon. How lovely. So let's say we have colored in our orange, the fruit, the orange. Now I'm not using an orange pencil. I'm using an orangey kind of yellow and an orangey kind of red. I'm not going to color the whole thing in. Let's say we've now got shadow on the bottom there. Shadow is actually the lack of light, and it is not particularly helpful just to press harder and draw harder like that. We actually have to change the color of it. If you look at, this is something I used before, this mandarin picture, that shadow there is no longer orange in color. It is a deep browny gray, dirty orange. So you actually have to change the color. So remember me adding that blue there? That dirtied off that orange. So if I add this blue over the top of the orange there to give it shadow, how gorgeous is that? Hope you can see. So by mixing complementaries, I've mixed orange with blue, they grey each other off. or dirty each other. And you get this lovely shadow. So you do need to change your colors when you're adding shadow. You can't just press harder to get a dark. So yes, the intensity of that, and that's called saturation, and that's in the notes that I sent through. The intensity of that will be slightly darker than that, but it's more intense. It's actually not darker for our shading purposes. And you can see on the little pretend orange that I've drawn there, adding that blue, and if I add the other blue, I'll get a more intense shadow. So this is for you to play with to see what kinds of mixtures you can get. So to recap, your complementary is the primary color opposite the color that the other two primaries make, which is your secondary. So red and green are complementary. This is all in the notes that I sent out in the email. Orange and blue is complementary, and purple and yellow is complementary. So that's a little bit of color theory, certainly the mixing of that. Hello, we've got Ziata. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got 24 people on the video. That's fantastic. I think we get more and more every Friday. So I hope that's helped you a little in terms of when you pick up something and you know that it's not the right color, how you can actually modify it to help you. When you pick up, and I am going to demonstrate these two together, when you pick up the so-called wrong colors to make a purple, purple's the worst one, I must admit. It makes the most muddy colors, and the real reason is because that red has got a bit of yellow in it, and that blue, believe it or not, even though you can't see it, has got a bit of yellow in it. And I've already told you that if you add yellow to purple, you're going to get mud. So you're already adding mud if you're mixing these two together. So I'll show you over here. So I'm mixing my orangey red with my greeny blue, and look at that gray that's happening. So it's definitely not making purple, but it's making quite a cool gray. So I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying they are wrong depending on what you want. If you want that color, then they're very, very right. And that's a beautiful gray, again, because it's yellow mixed with purple. So understand and play with what's going on. And while you're playing, you might be able to pick why things are working. Now, one of the ways in which I like to make my greens for Australian colors is, instead of making a green and then adding red to it, or making a red and then adding a green to it, I get my reddy blue. It's already got some red in it. Already ready. It's already ready for red. So if I put my reddy blue down, actually I should do it on this side because I'm going to make a green. If I put my reddy blue down, it's got some red in already. And I put my reddy yellow, so it's on the orangey side there, over the top of that reddy blue. Then the green that I've got is the beautiful Australian grey greens of the eucalypts. And you can see that. So the reason why that's happening is because both of those colours have got a bit of red in it. And I've told you that red with a bit of green are going to dirty each other off. Or green with a bit of red are going to dirty each other off. They're going to grey each other off. And if you look at a eucalypt, and I know there are lots of gum trees in southern Africa, if you look at the colour of those leaves, they've got a greyish tinge, and they've also got a bit of red around the edges. So I choose a blue that's already got red in it and a yellow that's already got red in it, and I get the most beautiful grey greens. So let's add a little bit of green there. So I'm going to just pick my garish green to knock back that red. So if you've got something bright red and you don't want it to be so garish, add a little bit of the complementary color, which is a green. I think that's a done deal for our color theory. I don't want to confuse you even more. These notes, so if you haven't received these notes, that's because you're not on my email list. So you can go to my website. I will put a link in the comments below the video. If you go to my website, which is www.karenfrankel.com, and if you go to Get Drawing, you'll find a link there, or /Get Drawing. You'll be able to join my email list. So these notes will give you the primary colors, how they get split, whether they're cool or warm, and I haven't told you anything about cool or warm at this stage. So that's why I said it wasn't really, it didn't really matter whether it was warm or cool. There are reasons why, and I think I've hinted at some in the notes, but that's what you need. If it's been confusing, watch again. I know many people do get confused. And just to finish off, I've got a water brush here. I will add some excitement and show you what these colors look like when they are wet. So that's the dirty red. I'm just kind of cleaning it in my hand. That's the bright orangey red. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, it went a bit muddy, didn't it? So I wasn't planning to wet these, which is why they're not working as well as they would have had I planned to do it. But I just wanted to show you that that purple is really lovely. Just show you a couple of the colors. My book is imminent, my Get Drawing book. I will be having pre-orders up hopefully within the next fortnight, so don't worry, I will tell you all about it, how you can order a book. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe, please comment. It'll be lovely to see you there as well. But for now, Get Drawing, Karen Frankel signing out. Cheers.